Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If I seem a little frazzled right now, it's because I am in Anaheim, 20 miles from me. There is a huge fire. There's ashes falling from the sky. My neighboring towns have been evacuated, so I'm a little shooketh right now. And also I can't go to school because the freeway's closed. So this will give me time to make this video that I'm sure will receive some hate. So this is kind of controversial, but please just hear me out. I'm gonna be respectful. I'm not just gonna be mean, I promise. So first of all, I don't actively dislike her. I just don't like her. I'm quite neutral about it, kind of like the Kardashians. Like I have some opinions, but it's not like I get into a heat about it. So one of the first things I want to talk about is the difference between Beyonce now and Beyonce of Destiny's Child and her earlier, let's say, solo music. So I liked her a lot in the early 2000s. I haven't listened to her in at least, I think, almost a decade, although I tried to listen to her new albums, but it just didn't happen. I feel like there is a pretty big disconnect between how her music was then and how it is now, and I'm not saying that it's bad to change, I'm just saying I didn't particularly like the change that occurred. And an example of that is that for her latest album, Lemonade, do you know how many writers she needed for that? 70. Also, for just this one line, scrolling through your call list, I don't want to lose my pride, but I'm a fuck me up a bitch. And that required 15 writers. I don't think that's particularly good writing, but aside from that, it's just kind of like, I have nothing against, artists who use other writers. I just feel like the more writers you use, the farther it is from who you actually are, no matter how hard you try to stay like genuine and real. So I didn't really like that. Also, aside from that, I get weird vibes about her attitude. Like, I'm not saying she's a bad person or mean, but I've always gotten this kind of feeling that she's conceited, mainly because of some of her lyrics, like I woke up this way flawless, and I'm all for self-confidence, self-love, blah blah blah, but I just get some weird vibe of, maybe it's also because her fans are pretty diehard that, she's elevated herself to this position in her head. I don't know, I just get really weird vibes about that. Another thing I didn't like is how overzealous some of her fans are. How I've seen people attack other people because they didn't have like Beyonce on their iTunes or whatever, and I'm just, that seems so over the top, I can understand you get mad if someone says that your favorite singer's a bitch or something, but if someone just doesn't like them and doesn't say anything of that provocative, I really don't understand why fans need to go that hard. And I think one of the more important things about being a responsible fan, a mature fan, is to acknowledge that certain things that your favorite artist does are not good. And by that I don't mean that the music necessarily, but sometimes they say things that are out of place. Sometimes they put out a track that you feel could have been done better. Like, that's one of the main things I always try to keep myself on point with, is even with Lana Del Rey, my ultimate favorite. There are things that she's said that I'm not, a fan of, and that I acknowledge that, she said that I didn't like. Every human is flawed, so I don't like pretending that a human isn't flawed. I also think she has become less relatable, and I think that's also, obviously as your fame becomes bigger, you are less relatable, but I think the fact that she's also using those 70 writers for her albums, like I said, separates her even more and removes any layer of relatability. Another thing is her line, Ivy Park. So first of all, I found it really expensive for what it was. Like, I'm looking right now, and she was selling a shirt that just says Ivy Park for 30 bucks. And while that's a relatively normal price, it's just kind of, Beyonce had all kinds of sources and all kinds of money, and most of the stuff that I'm looking at here is in black and white and just says Ivy Park on it. I don't know, I feel like you could have done something more special, more creative, more memorable. Like, this stuff, I'm sorry to say, I don't think is gonna be remembered next week. In fact, people probably already forgot it existed. So I didn't like her line. I didn't find it anything, to write home about. And another thing is that I feel like she panders a lot to the audience, which, I mean, in a sense, it's like, of course you want to show the audience what they want to see, but you can't lose yourself within that. And I really think that it's gotten to a point where, if I just heard an album and nobody told me it was her, I don't think I would recognize her. I also am not sure how I feel about her using the whole feminist thing. Always seems a little shady to me when artists use those kinds of like background, like feminist, a woman who wants equality or whatever, because it just seems very opportunistic. And I'm not doubting that she is a feminist, she probably is, but to me it always reads as kind of trying to grab more fans or to seem more kind of like relatable, when in reality a lot of her songs even talk about her not being relatable. Like she says, like, I wake up flawless. Like, how many of us really feel that way, that we wake up flawless? Like, the videos, she's adorned in jewelry and expensive things. So there isn't much of all that relatable to me. So yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys could hear me out. Let me know what you think. Even if we disagree, it's cool. Let's just not be bitchy about it. And thank you guys so much for watching.